All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. I appreciate you joining me for this course this evening. With everything going on economically and politically, more and more people are concerned about their nest egg. Many people have even emailed me or messaged me on social media wondering whether they should just cash out their 401ks and their retirement plans and just put the money in the bank or maybe just put it under their mattress. And my answer is no. Okay. But it's messages like this. That's the reason I decided to teach this course here today, because even during these challenging and volatile economic times, you can protect your nest egg. You can keep it secure while still growing your money and providing enough income to retire comfortably on. So today's content is going to take about 20 minutes to present, and then we'll have about 10 minutes for Q&A at the end. I do encourage you, though, if a question does pop up for you in your head, just go ahead and put it into the chat box right then. That way you don't forget it. We'll get to it at the end, and I'll review all the questions that we have in the chat box at that time once we get there. But again, the reason why people are concerned is well founded. An estimated 40% of all US households are projected to run short of money in retirement. This, according to the Motley Fool. Now, the focus of my practice, I have an advanced retirement planning designation from the American College of Financial Services. So I spend my day speaking with people who are either navigating through retirement or they are preparing for retirement. Generally speaking, they'll be there within the next 5 to 10 years. So I spend my day having conversations and listening to their concerns and formulating plans and strategies to help them retire comfortably and worry free. In other words, to help them retire in the optimal way. So, what we're going to do here today, by attending this class or by watching this short presentation, you're going to learn the biggest mistake that most investors make during their financial lives and what you can do about it. And I advise you to hang in there till the end, to the end of this 20 minutes, because I'm going to throw in a free retirement tool or a free giveaway at the end as well. So you're going to want to hang in there. Now, speaking of a person's financial life cycle, when thinking about that, it's really helpful to picture a mountain like Mount Everest. You see, if you're a mountain climber, you know that there are three clear legs of the journey. There's the ascent, the summit, and then the descent down the mountain. Now, most people think of the climb as the only hard part and that the descent should be easy. But you may be shocked to learn that out of all the deaths that have occurred on Mount Everest, nearly 80% of those have actually occurred upon the descent. And our financial life cycle actually follows a similar trajectory, just like Mount Everest, because retirement, that distribution phase, it's filled with many hidden dangers that too many people aren't aware of. And that's the thing. You see on your screen, the summit, the peak of the mountain. When we retire, the rules of the game change completely. The strategy used for maximum accumulation, it has to shift. There must be a complete paradigm shift because retirement is not about your assets. No, retirement is about income, spendable income. And so the strategy and the planning process needs to shift from accumulation focused to income focused. And that's the thing. The average financial plan and the average financial planner is not adjusting accordingly. And this is a huge reason why retirement is such a stress filled time and such a lost opportunity for so many people. You see, they continue to move forward with that accumulation mindset and focusing on average rates of return, but that puts them at substantial risk. And this is why so many Americans fail, financially speaking, upon the descent, or they fail during retirement. So today's course is going to show you why conventional methods of planning get most people into trouble during the descent down their financial mountain, and how I can help prevent that from happening to you. And again, stay tuned till the end for a free giveaway and a retirement planning resource that I think you'll really love. But let's jump into this here. We're going to start with an example. Speaking of the paradigm shift, here it is. Once you retire and begin taking income from your portfolio, average rates of return do not matter. Let's repeat that. When you retire and begin taking distributions from your portfolio, average returns do not matter. What matters much more is the order in which the market gives you those returns. So let's show this example here. Let's say that we have an investor who has a $100,000 starting balance and they are withdrawing $6,000 per year. Now, that should be okay because they also earn an average return of 6%. And so let's go through these returns here over a 10-year cycle. You'll notice that there are 2 great years in the beginning, and then we have 6 years of solid returns. You'll see 10%, 10%, 10%. But then we have really dismal returns at the end of this cycle. Again, this is just a hypothetical illustration to show you how the math works. But again, the average return is 6%. Now, he is withdrawing money out of the account as he goes along, because remember, he's retired. And after 10 years, he has $105,544. So after 10 years of distributions, he actually has more money than what he retired with. That's fantastic. Good news, right? But the market doesn't always work out that way. What would happen if we have an average rate of return, but we had it in a different order? You'll see in this example, we have the same beginning balance of 100,000, the same withdrawal of $6,000 per year, and the same average rate of return of 6%. But this time you'll notice that the dismal years are the first 2 years of retirement, and then the 2 great years are at the end of this 10-year cycle. Again, the average is 6%. But this time, because the retiree's drawing from the portfolio and the 2 bad years are at the beginning, it absolutely decimates his portfolio. After 10 years, he has less than $39,000. Now, you may be wondering, how is this possible? This has the same average rate of return as the last example. But you're going to notice, again, because the order of the returns early on, as the investor is taking substantial losses and he's withdrawing from the portfolio, he depletes the account so substantially that by year number 2, his account balance has already been cut in half. So he's never able to recover, even though he has great returns over the last 8 years. So what is this called? This is called the sequence of returns risk, and you just saw it in action. Drawing from your money when the balance is down makes it much harder to recover, which can be devastating when you're in the distribution stage of the money cycle. Now, the market has historically come back, but that takes time that you may not have as a retiree who is drawing from your investment portfolio. So are you getting it? When you retire, the rules of the game change completely. Both of these portfolios have identical average rates of return, but very different outcomes, right? Now, look, this isn't anything that you can control. You cannot control the order in which you receive your returns. Neither can I, nor any other investment advisor, no matter how brilliant we are. When is the market going to go down? Well, nobody knows. So the market's going to do what the market's going to do. And my point is this: if you retire and if you're unlucky and the market crashes shortly thereafter, now that market crash may be out of your control, but you may be in deep, deep trouble. So you have to carefully plan to neutralize the sequence of returns risk. And the traditional methods of planning, look, they're just not cutting it. The traditional method says to move 40% of your portfolio to bonds, and you'll safely be able to withdraw 4% per year and live happily ever after. So a person with a $1 million portfolio, that means they can safely withdraw $40,000 per year. Just 40,000. And for a millionaire, that's probably going to provide a much lower standard of living than what they were expecting. And with all of the recent volatility in economic climate, that's led many economists to lower the safe withdrawal rate to 2.8%. So look, sequence of returns risk. This is the number one retirement risk that we're talking about. Most people aren't aware of it. And as I've shown you, it can wipe you out. And again, that's why I'm offering this class and why I want to give you a free gift at the end of the presentation. Now, we talked about bonds. So following the conventional method of planning, people think, okay, look, we'll be okay if we just move most of our portfolio to the so-called safe haven of bonds. But remember, in the midst of trying to save the economy and prop up the markets during all of our recent financial challenges, the Federal Reserve slashed interest rates to zero. and they have been at or near zero for over a decade now. So this has drastically affected the way that most Americans are able to retire. Being able to achieve a 6 to 7% safe rate of return in a bond fund or a CD, live off the interest and preserve the principal, those days are gone. And here's the thing. The more that the Fed tampers with and interferes with the interest rates and with the money supply, the more and more volatility that we have. So I fear that we are in a vicious cycle that's just going to get worse. I call it our new normal of major market volatility, consisting of really high highs followed by extremely low lows. Speaking of extremes, here's the performance of the stock market since the turn of the new millennium, since January 2000. Now, because of what I showed you on that previous slide, because interest rates on the fixed income investments or the fixed income instruments are so low, more and more people lately are gambling with too much of their retirement money in the stock market. Now, if you think back to the example from a few slides ago, that that rate of return with the sequence of returns, apply that concept to the real world. Look, in the last 20 years, we have had two separate crashes of more than 50%. Now, imagine being a retiree who had most of their money still invested in the stock market and having to pull that money out for income during the dot-com crash or pull that money out for income during the 2008 financial crisis. What kind of impact would that have had on your portfolio? And probably even more importantly, as you watch your account values plummet, as you needed the income, and you're just making matters worse because you're taking money out, what impact would that have had on your peace of mind and on your standard of living? Look, and I know that many people are concerned that we're on the cusp of something like that happening again. And I want you to know that you can protect your money and you can secure your retirement, and you can do it without getting so conservative that your money will never grow again. So I would say that by far the biggest mistake that I see is people trying to go from accumulation phase of their financial lives straight into the distribution phase of their financial lives and doing nothing other than allocating a little bit more of their portfolio to bonds. They're leaving themselves seriously exposed to interest rate risk, stock market risk, and sequence of returns risk. Now, who is most at risk? Who is most susceptible to these market risks and volatility? Well, it's the people who are in what I like to call the retirement red zone. These are people who are within 5 years of retirement and they're about to start withdrawing from their portfolio, or kind of going through that range, or people who have just retired within the last 5 years where they're just starting to draw off their portfolio and they have a long retirement time horizon ahead of them. These are the people who are most susceptible to market volatility and the sequence of returns risk. So if you were to ask me, Ron, when is the time when I really don't want to screw anything up, when I really don't want to lose a large sum of money? It's right here in the retirement red zone, those 5 or 6 years before you retire, then the first 5 or 6 years of retirement. So what is the solution? It's to add a third phase to the money cycle. In our planning philosophy, we implement a third phase called the preservation phase. So by adding the preservation phase to the money cycle, we are creating what I like to call a volatility buffer. A volatility buffer. So what we do is we strategically position a portion of your portfolio into a non-correlated asset class. This allows us to continue growing them to outpace inflation, but to do it completely free from market risk. And this money is specifically earmarked to produce your first phase of retirement income. By implementing this strategy, you will greatly neutralize the sequence of returns risk and greatly increase your chances of retirement success and security. Now, it sounds a bit complicated, but I assure you that there is a system in place that brings it all together, and it's simple enough for everyone to follow and execute on. It's called the Bucket Plan Best Interest Philosophy, named after the best-selling book by Jason Smith. Look, I mentioned earlier, the conventional methods of holding your portfolio in the traditional ways, 60% stocks, 40% bonds, and then just withdrawing 4% per year. Look, it's just not cutting it anymore. It's far too inefficient and it leaves too much doubt, especially in a world that's becoming increasingly more volatile and more uncertain with each passing day. The reason why we love the bucket plan best interest philosophy, not only does it tend to be safer, not only does it tend to be more efficient and provide more income, but it's also a very simple yet extremely effective way to help our clients understand what can be a rather complex topic. What it all boils down to is instead of keeping your assets all invested together as you would during the accumulation phase, now we are strategically repositioning your assets each into their own buckets, with each bucket designed to accomplish a very specific yet different goal. So let's take a brief look at how this works. The first bucket would be the now bucket. This is money that's completely safe and completely liquid. And so these would be, you could think of it as these funds are your emergency fund or your comfort fund. You could also accumulate enough money here where if you had planned expenses in retirement. For example, maybe you know that shortly after you retire, you're going to have to fix the roof, or shortly after you retire, you're going to have to buy a new car, right? You can save up for those planned expenses here in the now bucket. Generally speaking, and again, this is just a rule of thumb, it may not correspond or apply directly to you, but generally speaking, most people like having somewhere between 6 to 12 months of income positioned here in the now bucket. That middle bucket, this is the soon bucket. This is the game changer. This is the preservation money that I talked about. This is your volatility buffer. This is where we are going to put your money into an income generating asset, because retirement is all about income, not assets, income. So this is safe, reliable income that's going to cover the first phase of retirement. This money can never go down. It can only grow. Okay. So again, this will cover your first phase of retirement income, and we're going to put enough money in here to cover an inflation hedge as well. And then finally, we have the later bucket. So the later bucket, this is geared toward long-term growth. This is geared toward long-term growth to offset the effects of inflation. This will help out with your second phase of retirement income to bolster your income against the ravages of inflation. Now, generally speaking, this is going to be a larger pool of money that we still have invested in the equities market. So in this pool of money, there are funds available to help us address what happens if there's some kind of disability and if we need long-term care. And also we use this bucket of money for legacy and tax planning as well. You need an innovative solution to solve these new age problems. All three of these buckets work together comprehensively and synergistically to optimize financial objectives and retirement outcomes. You might refer to these buckets as liquidity, income, and growth. That's the way that we position these buckets. I've even heard some advisors and some firms refer to this concept as utilizing the three worlds of money. That first bucket, that's the world of banking. We got some money in the bank for liquidity. Our second bucket represents the world of insurance, where we put enough money in these guaranteed retirement insurance contracts to provide guaranteed income. And then the third bucket is the world of Wall Street. That's the remainder of our money, and that is positioned for long-term growth investments. Again, the three buckets or the three worlds of money are separate, yet they work together synergistically to optimize financial objectives and retirement outcomes. Now, why do we do this? Well, by implementing the bucket plan philosophy and utilizing these three worlds of money, we can minimize sequence of returns risk, interest rate risk, and stock market risk. And that can help the client take the emotional piece out of investing in retirement planning. When they understand the strategy and what it is that we're doing, it's easier for us to stick with the long-term plan, regardless of near-term volatility. And this can provide for smoother investment returns and improve retirement outcomes. The bucket planning best interest philosophy, simple and powerful. And that's our goal, to provide you with a happier, more secure retirement. Don't worry, retire happy. That's our motto. And while it is simple, I've only been able to briefly touch on the amazing benefits of this strategy. There really is a lot more to learn. So do you want to learn more about how to implement these principles into your financial plan? Well, if this sounds like it would be helpful to you, go ahead and schedule a complimentary consultation with me, which we can do in person at my office or via Zoom webinar. I am going to put my calendar link in the chat box for you. And this initial consultation generally takes between 45 to 60 minutes. But the consultation is incredibly important because while I've explained a general framework, now we have to apply these general success principles directly to your specific situation. And that's where I'm really able to be of benefit to you. The most valuable thing that I offer is an individualized approach and then an ongoing long-term relationship to help you manage this plan. Once you schedule your meeting, myself or my assistant will reach out to you to confirm the day and time and also let you know how to prepare. So go ahead, click the link to my calendar and schedule the complimentary consultation. Just you're able to pick a date and time that works best for you. And as a free giveaway for the first 5 people who schedule their consultation, I'll be giving a complimentary copy of Jason Smith's best-selling Bucket Plan retirement book. Now, at this point, we're getting to the end of the class, so I need to put up my standard disclaimers here for a minute. And again, I appreciate you taking the time to be here with me today. And again, if you're concerned about the direction of the economy and the markets and where they're going, we are still near the top. So this may be a really important time to implement a strategy that's going to allow you to lock in some of your profits using the bucket plan strategy. Okay, so we're going to go ahead into the question and answer segment. So let's go to the chat box for the first question.